Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to be writing functions in vertex form, and this is the problem that we're going to work with. But first off, I want to kind of point out what vertex form is. So vertex form would look something like this: y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now, a lot of different things going on here. The a variable, this one here, tells me how fast the parabola, because that's what it is. It's a second degree function. So how fast the parabola goes up or goes down. Okay, so that's going to give us some information. So if it is greater than 1, then it's faster, or less than -1. If it is less, or if it is in between 1, well, let's just say less than. So if it's less than 1 or if it's greater than -1, basically in between those two numbers, then it's going to go slower. Okay, and we'll explain that. I'll explain that when I draw some of the different pictures, but that's one thing. And then the vertex is located at h, comma, k. So the vertex is located based on whatever h is. Notice this is a negative, so it's the opposite. And then whatever k is going to go in there. So we'll explain that once we get into that problem. So in this problem, we have x squared minus 5x plus 8. We want to see, notice here, it's all in those different types of forms. We want to use completing the square to be able to put it into that correct form. So what we have in this particular case is we've got this one right here. So the way that we do this, notice that when we were doing the last problems we had when this equation equaled 0, then we would move the 8 to the other side, and then we figure out all the different stuff to complete the square. Well, notice we have y on the other side, so we're not going to move it. We're going to leave it alone. And all I'm going to do first is I'm going to rewrite my equation. I want you to do this first. So if you're following along with me on one of the homework problems, it's a good way to do this, is just follow along. And we're going to put parentheses around this piece. Now, notice I left some room there. I just moved the 8 out of the way. We don't have this equals 0, so we're going to kind of ignore it for now. And I want to complete the square on the x squared minus 5x. And again, we go through all our steps. We do 5 divided by 2. Since that doesn't divide evenly, I'm going to square it. If I square it, that is 25 over 4. And if I have 25 over 4, that means I'm going to add 25 over 4 inside the parentheses. And outside the parentheses, I'm going to subtract 25 over 4. Now, why do I do that? Because this minus this is equal to 0. So it doesn't change the equation at all. Even though these have parentheses, they're all on the same side. A positive number minus the same number is going to 0 out. So then I still would get this back originally. But we're doing that so that we can factor. So we're going to factor this piece right here, and we're going to use completing the square. Remember, when we complete the square, we look at that sign. So we have x minus, and then 5 halves squared plus, and then 8 minus 25 over 4. And this is outside the parentheses. What we're going to do next is we're going to combine those together. So I get x minus 5 halves squared. And then I get 32 over 4 because I'm getting a common denominator of 4. So if I'm adding a 4 to the bottom, I have to multiply the 8 by 4 to get the 32 to get a common denominator. And then I have minus 25 over 4. And then that equals x minus 5 halves squared plus 7 over 4. Okay, so that's my answer for completing the square and putting it into vertex form. So minus 5 halves squared plus 7 over 4. Minus 5 halves squared plus 7 over 4. Okay, so we got that one right. Okay, now we're going to come down here. We're going to look at this one. Minus x squared minus 14x minus 9. So we have, oops, not the right one to go to. we have a negative in front. So when we have a negative in front, we're going to have to take out the negative. So if kind of follow along with me, we're going to kind of go at this a little bit slow, but we're going to have y equals, I'm going to divide out a negative, which means I'm dividing these two only by a -1 because I'm taking it out. So I'm going to divide that by a -1. That leaves me with x squared plus 14x. I'm going to leave some room, and I'm going to leave the 9 alone. Notice I did not divide the 9 by -1. I left it alone. Okay? So if I were to multiply a -1 through, I'd get -x squared minus 14x minus 9. So I get my original equation just to check to verify that everything is okay. So I do 14 divided by 2. That equals 7. 7 squared equals 49. I like to put parentheses around things, so we have plus 49. Now, normally I would say, okay, you're going to come out here and you're going to put minus 49. But the problem is because this negative is kind of lingering out here, right outside the parentheses, if I multiply it back through, it's actually going to change this to a negative, so I really want this to be a positive to cancel. So notice if I have -x squared, there's my -x squared, -14x minus 49, that's not in there, minus 9 plus 49, this -49 and plus 49 would cancel each other, and I'd have the original equation. So we have to always go back and check it just to verify, to see it, make sure everything is good. Okay, but now I can factor this. So this becomes, there's my 7, x plus 7 squared. I have minus 9 plus 49, so that gives me plus 40. So it should look like that. Minus x plus 7 squared plus 40. So it looks like it's this one. And that's right. Okay, so took a little bit of kind of maneuvering things around, but you just be careful. When you're dealing with the math problems, you just want to be really careful about how you're writing them out. And then finally we have this one. So this one now has a number in front. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult, but not much. Notice we're only really going to focus on these two. What's common to those two, what I can take out, but I really need to take out that -3 no matter what. So I'm going to divide by -3, divide by -3. I'm going to leave that alone because I'm literally taking it out, which means I'm really just factoring it out. And so I have x squared plus 2x. So if I divide -6 divided by -3, I get plus 2. And put my parentheses here. I'm going to keep my 5 over here. Now notice my first check right away, -3x squared minus 6x, and then minus 5. Okay, because that doesn't multiply through because that's not in the parentheses. And so now we're going to focus on this. Here is my b term, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Square it, that's 1. So I'm going to add 1. Now I'm going to multiply this -3 times 1. So -3. So notice I'm kind of thinking about how this is going to work. So I have -3 times 1, which equals -3. So that means I need to add 3 to cancel it. Okay. So now I've added 3 to cancel that one. And now I have y equals -3. And I can factor this now because I can see what it is. It's x plus 1 squared. This one does not come from here. That one comes from here, right? I mean, even though they're the same one, that's where it comes from. So x plus 1 squared minus 2. So -3, x plus 1 squared. So, sorry, -3, x plus 1 squared minus 2. It looks like this is the one. Okay, and we got it. So notice if you're really just being careful and trying to get everything done, it just makes it a lot cleaner to kind of get through all those different types of problems. So we got all of those done. That ends the section. I am going to do some of the homework problems, which will help you out, and those you can just use, make sure you understand it. What I would probably suggest that you do is try the homework and then check my answer and make sure that everything is okay. But that will be in the next video.